hey, here's a video. This is a YouTube video about a YouTube video, which is a great start. But actually, it gets better. It's a YouTube video about a YouTube video about a Twitter post. Even better, that the Twitter post was inspired by a YouTube video, or more precisely, 3 of them, as well as another Twitter conversation. So really, it's a YouTube video about a YouTube video about a Twitter post about YouTube videos and Twitter posts, and on in some fractalized sequence until you get something resembling a head. By making this video, I acknowledge that I am merely at the ass end of a human centipede of discourse, but I would rather have all this shit seeping into my mouth than contribute to an environment of serial harassment like the YouTuber I will be talking about today. Rev Says Des is a YouTube and Twitch account featuring a pig-tailed elf vampire girl VTuber with glasses who probably is played by a loser anime fan who probably looks like Steve Buscemi ate someone else's extra chromosome. Now, Rev Says Des does not actually talk about anime or anything of substance, really. Instead, he makes videos, often 3 a day, about pointless drama on Twitter. Interacting with Rev Says Des is less like watching a person talk and more like a human content mill. It's the internet, and that's to be expected, but most content mills are like, haha, what kind of Pokemon are you? Or last 4 digits of your social security number. Not the, hey, here's a girl who is on the internet being wrong. Throw slurs at her until she never says anything again. Now, there has been recent controversy, and I use the word controversy in full scare quotes, about who should be cast in anime, which, you know, matters so fucking much. Because Rev only talks about shit that doesn't matter while hiding behind a VTuber persona and a wall of angry anime fans. He obviously has a lot to say about it, and he's still talking about it, and will for as long as the outrage doesn't get drained. So what is Rev saying? Let's take a look at this video. So the video starts with Rev warning his audience that he's going to be getting into some controversial material. He's doing it all without posting the Tangled meme image, and we all know he's just going to rile up the anime community on Twitter.
So today we're going to be talking about some pretty controversial topics, and to start off this video, I'm going to have to give one of my hottest, most nuclear takes of all time, and you might want to strap in because you're going to fall out of your seat when you hear this one.
So what is Rev's hot box take that only people with smug Anya avatars are intelligent enough to appreciate?
I don't think we should limit people to opportunities based on the color of their skin.
Ooh! So, if you're well just a person who might be wondering who would find this controversial take controversial, aside from Rev and his sister cousin Crystal Brenda.
That has been a big conversation over the past couple of weeks in the voice acting community because there is a push narrative of authentic casting.
Authentic casting? What kind of sinister conspiracy are those anime voice actors pushing on us?
Which means that voice actors should only voice characters that match the color of their skin.
Ah, I see. Thank you for breaking it down so simply that even a slimy, smooth brain like me can understand. Rev then goes on to explain how there have been controversies with famous Twitter personality ProZD not being able to read for non-Asian characters and the casting, recasting, and re-recasting of Yorichi in Blood 1,000-Year Race War, Blood War, shit! So, after throwing out a few phrases like diversity hire, Rev's main argument comes down to you reap what you sow. That is, minority voice actors who advocated for the equality in opportunities are being proven how wrong they are for doing that. And they are rightfully being punished for the crime of being wrong on Twitter and pushing an agenda, or as Rev calls it, the narrative of authentic casting. No, he doesn't define what this means because, let's be honest, people like him don't. Instead, he gawks at the idea that it can improve performances and waits for his audience to clap like seals. But I think the deeper issue is that Rev doesn't actually know what authentic casting means and is therefore scary. He could also know what it means and is actively portraying it as something that is sinister without ever going into the literal definition nor context behind it. Something Rev, Hirohei, Yellow Flash all do. Instead, they waste time performing Japanese because they really need that ad time. More on that later. In the meantime, I'll do it for them. So let me lay it down for you. Authentic casting is the idea of casting directors should at least try to cast people who represent the race, sexuality, gender, or whatever the character they are casting for. There are two main reasons for casting authentically. First of all, equity. Because Hollywood has, historically, been very white, very heteronormative, very neurotypical, and authentic casting gives a shot to people who are not white, not sexually normative, disabled, neurodivergent. More people get a piece of the pie. And shockingly, people are against this for some reason. Because, come on, if we never cast for weird little freaks, how would Rev ever get work? And number two, because an authentic cast does a better job acting. Take John Wayne playing Genghis Khan the Conqueror. Not only does John Wayne's cowboy persona clash with what might be a Mongol chieftain, he also looks pretty fucking stupid. No one buys it. He looks like he's pretty out of place as a white lead would be in a Tyler Perry film. Authentic casting is a big deal in live action for obvious reasons. It's also relevant in Western animation because characters are developed with a particular background in mind. No one wants to hear Scarlett Johansson doing an accent that'll get her kicked out of Panda Express. Now, maybe in anime dubs, the authenticity is less of an issue because most anime characters are Japanese. And the point of an anime dub is to have English speakers play the role, many of whom are not Japanese. There are some exceptions. The Netflix dub of A Silent Voice had a deaf actress, Lexi Marmon, play the deaf character Shoko Nishima. The Crunchymation dub of Tomo-chan is a Girl had Carol Olston's Japanese voice actor, Sally Amaki, reprise her role because Amaki is biracial, Japanese and British. Both of these were brilliant casting decisions. Fans loved the performances, and Carol in particular is a fucking meme. Neither Netflix or Crunchymation had to make these choices. The Japanese voice actor for Shoko is not deaf, but this was a rare opportunity for someone like Lexi Marmon to play a huge role in a theatrical film. There aren't a lot of deaf characters in media, period. There aren't many opportunities like this. Authentic casting made the most of the opportunity presented and hit it out of the park. Woof. But those are the exceptions. And fine, anime isn't really racially diverse. You have dark-skinned and black-coated characters, but for the most part, they're all meant to be Japanese or racially ambiguous. The main argument in the anime sphere is equality is trying to make the talent pool more diverse, and that is an admirable goal in and of itself. But at that point, we're not actually talking about the same thing. The controversies behind authentic casting have existed since Elvis was being accused of appropriating black music by playing rock and roll. Which he did do, but he never denied it. Determining where the line is with these issues is too specific for each casting call, and some are going to not be optimal. Neither a YouTube video or a Twitter thread is going to solve it. God save us if we ever try to. Although that would be relevant if we were engaging in good faith, but Rev does not do that. He simplifies complex topics to such a degree that he doesn't have to think too hard about what he's actually arguing. He seems incapable of distinguishing between casting calls like ProZDs that were for Western animations, where diversity is represented on screen, and anime, where diversity only matters because diversity matters. Although voice actors do often do both, this is an important distinction, which flies over the head of the terminally online chuds who only watch anime, which leads him to saying some thought-provokingly stupid shit like this.
And I don't understand how you can mock anime fans like this, because the people who don't support authentic casting are the majority of anime fans.
I don't know where he's getting this statistic from. I guess he did a poll at some point in asking on a scale of 1 to 10, how high is your IQ? And extrapolated from there. But don't worry, he's not just making baseless claims. He's also making fallacious ones.
True anime fans don't support this narrative. It's something that only the voice acting sphere seems to support.
Those guys don't get it. True anime fans don't want people to reflect on the appropriateness of casting. Only normie anime voice actors do. Rev claims that people are acting in bad faith on Twitter, and chances are he actually is right, because Twitter is a cesspool, one he actively swims in, mind you. But still, in particular, Rev singles out a couple of tweets from a voice actor friend of mine. Rolling back the clock to November, Rev posted a video using this particular thumbnail and title, featuring one of my friends there, Shakira. And you may notice a little bit of an issue here. It's obviously edited to incite anger among Rev's fans. However, it lacks a lot of context, so allow me to fill you in. The whole point of that one post was to make fun of people calling her racist for basically defending the stance of what happened to Inarius Cornelius when she was removed from playing Yorichi from Bleach, which, by the way, auditioned, got the role because she's just that good, and had nothing to do with her race. She was already recording voice lines, and when Wendy Lee, who was not asked to come back at the time, complained and then replaced her. So not only was this a slap in the face to her as a woman of color, but also as a professional voice actress. Shakira's point here is that they cast Yorichi perfectly, but felt like it was because Inarius is a woman of color, she had to take a back seat because she is a woman of color playing a woman of color, which Yorichi is, and is something that even Wendy Lee had admitted. However, due to the fact that a woman of color got cast to play a woman of color, the weird little freaks came out and harassed and said very racist things to Inarius, to which a lot of members within the industry comforted her about, except for Wendy Lee and the Studiopolis. She was more worried about her not playing Yorichi. Let's be honest here. This is because someone fucked up and didn't coordinate. It happens. It's not a perfect system. This could have been avoided. That does not disregard that she wasn't asked to come back at the time, but it was also very clear that there was a lot of racism thrown around to a person of color to play a person of color, something that Shakira did not find at all respectful, because Inarius could have avoided a lot of that racism and harassment if this bullshit never happened. And we need to stop pretending that casting people of color for roles in anime, whether a person of color or not, should never be met with an onslaught of racism. And that's not all. Holy shit! Astoundingly, what fell on Rev's deaf knife ears is the fact that the initial tweet Shakira made was a joke to make fun of racists calling her racist because authentic casting. And Rev will scream to the heavens that this is what VOs are reaping what they sow, but fails to follow up on what her true meaning is based on this following tweet, which puts her opinion in a much better perspective. So no, they're not demanding anything, but they are asking that they don't get boxed in because of authentic casting. What is being said here is that it is preferable in voiceover to cast authentically, but not required. Context to a point of view that Rev and all of his little slimelets love to leave out in place of more Japanese, lack of irony, and lies. And let's stop for a moment and break down the argument of casting based off of race. That doesn't just happen. Inarius doesn't just get the role because she is a woman of color. Sure, it may help a bit, but they casted her because she is talented. She's good at her job. If she wasn't, she wouldn't have the role she has. So if she was casted on her talent, what's the problem? Well, it's because she's a talented actress that is a woman of color playing characters with the slightest bit of melanin in their design. And for the weird little freaks, that's apparently a bad thing. Because she did her fucking job. Oh no, you special little snowflakes. You don't have to outright say something racist to be racist. You can in fact target a woman of color whose opinion does not match yours, say that they are wrong and bad, and purposely lie and slander about what they say, and take them completely out of context, harass them, and then send entire mobs of hate and harass them, while your entire argument is never about casting someone for their race but their skill. But they're skilled enough to get the part anyways, so there can only be one logic left in that empty barrel of shitty opinions. It's never been about their skill. It's about their race. And what else can someone conclude than it being racism? You don't have to say the N-word aggressively to a black person to make it aware that you hate black people. You just have to be aggressive enough to a person of color and not with anyone else. It's just aside from the blatant misogyny that's just another problem altogether. But I will say this, Rev. Jamie Morici is never going to stop working in the industry. Make one video and be over it, you 10-ply, soft, smooth-brained bitch. The horse is dead, you weird little freak. So, after that clusterfuck of misreading, Rev's video kind of peters out. The last half of it is incoherent to the greater point that he was making. He just rambles on about race and anime, two things he is woefully unqualified to talk about. He must really needed that second Adderall.
We've got to have money.
But I guess there's a Toho figure who hasn't shoved up his ass yet. There's really nothing to respond to here. Not even anything particularly objectionable. He just talks and talks as if he didn't just send 117,000 people the info of a voice actor who did everything but say, "Here's our Emmanuel Goldstein, and this is our 2 minutes hate." That was a 1984 reference, by the way. It turns out that there is a lot more to that book than political correctness gone wrong. Oh, hey, Yaro, so a friend of yours was attacked. It's the internet. No one was really hurt by it, right? And it's just one bad video. Surely you can lay off Rev and give him some grace and empathy, right? I wish that was the world we lived in, folks. It's an ideal world where me and Rev can go meet at a local cafe and trust each other man to man and hash out our difference in opinion. But that's not the world we inhabit. Rev says Des is not some bumbling idiot that has bad takes on YouTube. There are hundreds of those. For example, this guy. Rev says Des is the YouTube equivalent of a shock jockey who not only gets the attention, but money from inciting people to behave like their worst selves. Back in the day, a troll could just say something on a stupid forum and safely be ignored because the only thing we'd lose is a bit of our time and our brain cells from reading them. Rev, however, makes 3 to 4 videos a day, including live streams, just full of the most mind-numbingly dog shit trite, and he is rewarded on Twitter and YouTube and every platform he engages with because he gets clicks and views by being a troll. It used to be that trolling was a art, now it is a business, and one that deals in the worst kind of propaganda. And Rev is not the only one, or even the biggest or worst one. Just in the anime sphere, Hirohei has over 500,000 subs, Flash has 435,000. I would like to think that these followings are because of the algorithm and not their insight, but then I scroll through the comments and see how much they feed off of each other. Channels like Rev Says Des create a content mill echo chamber, and not only does it lead to targeted mass harassment, but also robs our humanity of our collective sanity. It would be wonderful if the anime sphere had people discussing problems in the industry in a nuanced and even-handed way. But instead, current discourse is run by trolls who have pissed in our collective Cheerios. And quite frankly, I'm sick of having the smell of urine and shit whenever I open my mouth about the conversation about anime translations. Had that been the only issue at hand, this would be a much shorter video. But I'm not even done. Aside from the flagrant abuse of the algorithm and the harassment of both professionals and independent voiceover talent, the consistent lies, the strange obsession of trying to convince people that it's okay to liking anime lollies in a sexual way. Good job, Rev. Very weird. Remember that whole harassment campaign against Shakira? It was a tactic designed by people with certain right-leaning views, like libs of TikTok, designed to get people to stop saying what they are saying because it's another candle on their weird little freak cake to silence or threaten those they don't agree with. However, in response, there were a lot of people that did not like that and thus made it an effort to get the video taken down because of the damage it was doing to people who it did not deserve to be damaged by, aka slander. And thus, Rev came out with his own video responding to the backlash as if they did nothing wrong and that they themselves were getting silenced for attempting to silence somebody else. And this is probably not the first time it's happened. Rev spends his days spewing absolute garbage, getting his fans riled up and attacking people over a difference of opinion. When it comes back to him, suddenly he's a victim. Then again, losing the irony of the idea of the issue he complains about, which is people being victims to situations that they themselves have caused. So when other people clap back at him because he was telling his truths, but when other people say what they know as facts, he is considering them to be lies or full mask off situations when they are not. And then getting offended by those opinions, like a special little snowflake, and then attacks the person with no regard to the consequences of his actions. So all in all, can Rev really be trusted to be unbiased or fair? Can he really be treated with the same level of respect that he expects of others when he himself spends no time considering that his actions do have consequences? Is it fair to say that maybe if he is just as bad as the issue he brings to light and makes efforts to spend more time trying to hurt people than creating a nuanced and respectable field of discussion, does he really deserve that level of reverence? Because I need to emphasize this. Rev does not know the industry. He doesn't know what it's like. He doesn't know the first thing about localizations because he doesn't speak nor understand Japanese. He doesn't know the first thing about the business side of localization. He doesn't know how casting works, how ADR works, how directing works, how audio engineering works, barely conceptualizes editing, and doesn't know the first fucking thing about script writing for the industry at all. Yes, anyone can tell a bad dub a mile away, but there are a lot of people who don't know or obsess why that happens. Not that it matters, given that a few bad dubs does not make an entire career of bitching make. Rev can have an opinion, but his opinion about the industry is not nuanced and full of just hating people and ideas that do not match his own, leading him to do some of the same shit over and over again. I mentioned Jamie Marici. She was the writer and also voice of Luoka in Dragon Maid, and made this one joke that most of these kinds of channels, like Rev, love to bring up over and over again when the views are not enough, to creating a harassment campaign to someone who will never capitulate to them. 7 years of this has gone by, and never letting up once. Spending all of their time just never getting over one dumb fucking joke that happened 7 years ago. It is so immediately childish, but that kind of thing fits the whole Rev and the rest of them who really like lollies. Again, good job, Rev. Very weird. And it's this level of obsession that makes it even weirder that they can't just say what they have to say once and get it over with, but spends a lot of their time ringing Pavlov's bell over again for a payout to try and silence Jamie because their views don't align. Whether or not I agree with Jamie doesn't matter. But she's not as big of an issue as these people make her out to be. It's just incessant whining to remain relevant and to make money. Because if she was as bad as they did say, why is she still working in the industry? Because she does her job. Most of the time, given her record, she does it very well. And sometimes people make certain liberties that are not going to land, but that is not grounds for 7 years of harassment. But the funny truth is, when Rev makes a video complaining about the stuff Jamie says to weird little freaks that are harassing her, he is showing them that she is making fun of them for being weird little freaks about one line in one episode from 7 years ago. So Rev and the like are just flashing her, making fun of faceless losers on the internet to a bunch of other faceless losers on the internet. And thus the irony falls on Rev's deaf, lolly-loving knife ears. Super cool, you moron. The fact of the matter is that I can see the writing on the wall. People will defend the idea that this is all criticism and that they just want localization to be better. Sure, you can say that and want that, but look at the industry and how this has been going on. It's not going about it right. You don't have to send hate mobs to people to harass people to criticize. Most of the time, that so-called criticism is just people attacking and belittling the target. And when the weird little freaks get sent to the Shadow Realm, they act like it's a victory instead of the reality of that target of that campaign removing garbage from their house. It's not a victory to be blocked. It's just that you're one less problem to them. And we'll move on. Even so, we come back to the idea of why should they even capitulate to begin with? Why should they be nice or behave in a way that is only approvable to the attacker? You spent so much time acting like an ass to them. What in your right fucking mind makes you believe that you deserve respect? Because they just want an emotional punching bag, not an explanation of the circumstances. I wouldn't be surprised if I hear that Rev and his ilk are abusers behind the scenes. Besides that point, my issue is that they promote bad behavior and then shirk off the responsibility when they get caught. They don't criticize, they monopolize on just being upset at all hours of the day because all they can do is just say nothing but contradictions, hypocrisy, lies, and being outright aggressive to people they don't agree with, all while making incoherent, poorly produced, visual garbage they call videos while making money from a beaten and dead horse to infinitum.
Ooh wee, look what that money make a bitch do.
But here's the kicker. They don't care. They claim that they do it for the sake of saving localization, but will provide no solutions or answers to the greater goal of improving the industry. Probably because of the fact that, as I've mentioned before, they don't know the first thing about the industry at all, or the fact that their ideas are dog water and reductive because the world is slowly moving on without them, given that they often have prioritized going after women in their cum-stained takes. They can't provide any actual solutions because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about. They pretend to act like the best way to do things is to never let anyone but dudes who don't have any political opinions run every project. They fail to realize one of the biggest contributors to localizations in the industry is Mayumi Okada, who is the director of operations and casting director at Bang Zoom Entertainment, with over a decade of experience in the voiceover industry, having overseen hundreds of projects, and she is also Japanese. You know, someone who's more qualified than Rev, who has done and is none of that. Or Damon Marici, who has over 2 decades of voiceover experience, over a decade of directing and script writing in the voiceover industry, and has overseen 100 projects, whom again, someone who is more overly qualified than Rev and his whiny little freaks. In all reality, they don't provide anything of substance. And they know, above all else, that the only way to have returning customers is to get them hooked on a drug of misplaced self-righteousness by using their platform as a distribution center for vile schmegma. Because if their audience ever found out that they can't keep living with the mindset that they have, losing friends, losing loved ones, people once close to them, and even figures that they once respected, sending them to the shadow realm, they have a choice. Get more drugs, or stop going back and finding things that they may actually like and realize that the way that they were looking at things are all wrong. It's cult behavior. As soon as people realize that they are wasting their time and life living day to day being shitty, that they will start to realize that may not be conducive to a healthy lifestyle and mindset. Because honestly, it's either you come in the sink or you sink in the cum. And for some, it will be in time. Some, too late. And the rest floating in a mire of salty white filth. Because the truth will out. And the truth is, the industry is not getting worse because of SJW bullshit or some made-up culture war. It's getting worse because of corporate consolidation, anti-union behaviors, a lack of proper equity in pay, and those who make these companies their hundreds of millions while only paying actors, writers, editors, and directors thousands in a city where rent prices are in the same thousands. Not because they wrote a poorly delivered joke or made palatable changes for a Western audience. Not that it matters, that because they were already gonna just play the sub anyways, so why they complain is beyond me. So, what do we do? Where do we go from here? The ideal thing would be to do nothing. Waste no energy on the troglodyte and let him spew his shit in his echo chamber. Unfortunately, since he does have a dedicated and rabid fan base who does his bidding, many of whom cannot be convinced that he is a charlatan, just ignoring the problem won't make the harassment campaigns go away. What I propose then is just accountability. Whenever we have a platform such as Revs that is big enough to foment hatred and harassment, the person in charge should be expected some amount of accountability to the things that they say. It's not an infringement on free speech, it's a regularly expected duty of those who influence opinion. Your local newspaper can't write lies about you and then tell its subscribers to burn your house down. Because not only would that be a massive breach of journalistic integrity, it's also widely considered a shitty thing to do when you're not on the internet. When Rev goes off on his tangents and whips up people into a frenzy, which he does all the time, call him out. When he tries to fall back on the idea that he's just a YouTuber and not a journalist or an opinion maker, remind him that all he does is express opinions, however poorly conceived they are. If he wants to be taken seriously by non-idiots, he needs to become better, and character growth is always welcome and sought after thing. Isn't it? Lastly, we need to stop pretending that we know the localization industry, let alone keep acting like anyone that makes localizations and the method that they employ is out of spite or malfeasance. Screaming like a child is not going to solve the problem, Stuart. Because I'm not saying the localization industry does not have its issues, but I'm not gonna sit here either and pretend that we should behave like little bitches in a way that are about people who are doing their jobs based on their clients' requests. If you don't like that things are changed from one language from another and need adjustment, or a change of tone by inserting a dumb fucking joke from 7 years ago that you can just get the fuck over really quickly, funnily enough, the industry is about change. Something of the irony of those who constantly forget that. You will actually see the changes are not that egregious, and maybe if you look at it from a view where we aren't always trying to do a gotcha on localizers who are already not going to interact with the terminally online chuds, because based on how a lot of you behave, Seems like you're the ones offended, my good bitch. Honestly, we should do an entire video on localizations in its industry like this. See you guys in the next video. Hi, hello, it's me, your friend, Aaron. This is a really tiring video, and the fact that I had to put on a suit in order to do it is really kind of silly. But you obviously get what's going on here. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're Rev, be better. If you're Rev's fans, I don't care. And to the people who are just watching this to kind of see what I'm up to, stick around. There's more things like this coming soon. Who knows? Don't forget to check out my Patreon, and I play D&D with people. I have another video coming out relatively soon, and also more bridging projects in the future. Yeah. Bye!